Welcome back to the Bobby and Beardy Show. I'm Bobby, he's Beardy, and today we're going to be talking about Paddington 3, Paddington in Peru. Beardy, welcome, how the devil are you?
I am very good, thank you very much. Nothing to complain about at all this time. It's very weird, I know.
That's not what you were saying a minute ago. You were saying all sorts of things.
Nothing I want to share. Shush.
I'm very well as well. Thank you for asking. There's actually a Paddington 1 minute review on the channel as well. Link somewhere. Have a listen as well. We're doing 1 minute reviews. Beardy's going to do one soon this week as well. Let's get into the main show though. Paddington in Peru is the third installment in the Paddington film series. Side note, is anyone else annoyed that it's Paddington what? Just Paddington, Paddington 2 and then Paddington in Peru? They had it, I feel like, it should have been Paddington 3, whatever. Or Ride or Die, whatever. Paddington for life.
That'd be the third one.
Directed by Dougal Wilson, written by Mark Burton, John Foster, James Lamont, from a story by Paul King, Simon Farnaby, and Burton. Based on the stories of Paddington Bear, created by Michael Bond. The film stars Ben Whishaw as the voice of Paddington, again with Hugh Bonneville, Emily Mortimer replacing Sally Hawkins as Mrs. Brown, Julie Walters, Jim Broadbent, Madeline Harris, Samuel Jocelyn, Olivia Colman, Antonio Banderas, and Carla Toos, I believe is how you say the name, in supporting roles. UK release date was the 8th of November. It's a runtime of 1 hour and 46 minutes. And it had an opening here in the UK. This is UK box office only information, not worldwide like normal. A strong £9.7 million opening. Better than expected. So it's pretty good.
Yes.
Pretty good. Biddy, what's going on with Paddington?
So Paddington doesn't start in Peru. He's very much becoming British. He's assimilating quite nicely. But the idea of Paddington in Peru, it offers a fresh setting, take on the sort of beloved Bear in London. It's now Londoners in the wild. Something has happened in Paddington's home nation of Peru, and he needs to go help his aunt, and the Brown family come along for a little jaunt. It has a lot of the same comedy, but done in a different way. Rather than, like you say, your Bear in London, it's Londoners in the wild. Lots of laughs, some elements that I don't really like. I think the addition of, the change of director from the previous two makes a big difference in how it feels. Plus the fact that I've said it now 3 times, but the idea of the Bear in London, the reverse of it, doesn't keep some of the charm. I still thought it was a good laugh.
One of my main notes, actually. That they, I don't think it.
But before we get onto that,
okay, fine. Don't let me complain.
No. Have you seen the release dates for this in Australia and the US?
Aren't they next year?
January.
What is happening? January. This is 3 for 3. Well, I mean, we haven't done we didn't do a full recording of Heretic, but we talked about it.
Not yet.
And that came out here in the UK early. We had whatever the heck we talked about the other day. Now this.
Yeah, Australia gets it on January the 1st and the US January 17th. What is happening?
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. These release dates don't make any sense to me.
Not at all, no. But, please rant about the things.
Okay.
I've ruined your train of thought.
Okay, let me just say, I think Paddington 1 and 2 are exceptional films. They are
agreed.
So strong as just like family films that you can all watch together. They've got such an emotional core to them, and they're fun and entertaining, and there is quite frankly no way they could have kept up the pace, especially after this long break. 2014 2017
17 yeah,
so
so
a decade since the first film came out. And it just hasn't, it can't match those films, because it would have been one of the best trilogies ever made if it had managed to match that pace. And I couldn't quite figure out for a while why I didn't enjoy it as much, but I have started to kind of figure it out. One of those reasons is Sally Hawkins not being in the film.
Completely agree. There's nothing wrong with what's her name, Mortimer.
Emily Mortimer is fine.
She's fine. She's fine. Absolutely fine.
But Sally Hawkins was such a crucial emotional heartbeat with the proper connection to Paddington Bear in the first 2 films, and it's like this vital component of the jigsaw puzzle is just missing because it's of the recast. And again, Emily Mortimer does nothing wrong she's fine.
Yeah.
Although the character of Mrs. Brown doesn't really have that much to do. She's just a bit like upset that her children are getting older and flying the nest.
I think that detracts as well, because we've had the two previous films, obviously a decade ago and short, but you've had her emotional connection to Paddington, and yes, it's the same character, but it's not the same person. And if you've seen the other two, you do there is disconnect, I think.
Yes,
and that does fit quite into it, and it's kind of weird because obviously this film introduces two new characters that I think are big parts. You've got Olivia Colman doing the Reverend Mother, Antonio Banderas as sort of the antagonist in this.
I put him as the ship captain in all my notes. That's his character's name, the ship captain.
And they're both good actors, and their parts are fantastic. And again, I'm not saying right now I'm going to leave it till thumbs up, thumbs down to whether I actually think this film is good or not. But with those two additions, it should elevate it. Olivia Colman is usually fantastic in everything she does. The what film? Wicked Little Letters, beginning of the year. Very much enjoyed that. She is very good at what she does. Antonio Banderas, I think it's going to sound harsh to say this, but he has aged.
I think he looks great.
He does look good, but I still remember him in sort of like 20 years ago age, I'm not going to lie. So
if they made Zorro 3 tomorrow and he was in it, I'll be like, yeah, cool, I'm fine with this.
I'd be fine with it too, to be fair. But yeah, that sort of those people added. It's very colourful. It adds a lot of there's action, there's humour, but it doesn't have the same feel, like you say. It doesn't have the same emotionality, in my opinion, as the first two, and that is what Paddington's about.
Absolutely. Olivia Colman. I don't think anyone does a bad job acting in this film. I think everyone's pretty good. I just think what they have to do is a bit hit and miss. I think Olivia Colman is good as the Reverend Mother. She's fun. She's quirky. I think Antonio Banderas is the boat captain. He has a lot of interactions with various family members. I wish they'd done. I'll talk more about it in spoilers, but I wish they'd done something slightly different with that, because it's quite a fun thing. But I don't think they nailed it, in my opinion. I do genuinely think one of the second main thing I don't like about this film, Sally Hawkins missing being the first, is that Paddington not being the fish out of water kind of character in the UK, London mostly. I think that makes the film not work, because they're on this weird Indiana Jones style adventure with some silly other characters, and they're all a bit scared of bugs and stuff, and I don't know, it doesn't work as well, and I don't think a lot of the jokes work as well, to be honest.
I couldn't agree more. Like my notes say the exact same thing. The reversing of the fish out of water, it doesn't feel right. Like by doing this, having the Brown family in Peru, it subtly shifts the tone, and Paddington's sort of mischievous charm, I guess, it feels slightly diluted as he returns to Peru.
Yeah. I also think just having so many walking, talking bears makes Paddington feel less special every time they have an extra one appear on screen doing something. I feel every time you do that, you're just chipping away at what makes this character special. And you've taken him out of his location, you've introduced a whole bunch more. And I know Aunt Lucy turned up at the end of the second film, leave me alone. But every time they do this, it's like, well, Paddington's not as special anymore. Also, this popped back into my head just now. There's no way that passport photo is legit. That's getting denied straight away. Are you joking me? I had to renew my passport the other day, and it was slightly too shadowy, and they turned it down on the application online. They were like, this was not getting accepted. I was like, you joking? So,
it's an interesting thing to be angry about in a kids' film. I very rarely defend kids' films, but come on.
I think Julie Walters as Mrs. Bird is my favourite part of the film. She spends a lot of the time.
She's been my favourite in all of them.
At the retired home for old bears or whatever it's called. Yeah. She has a lot of fun interactions with Olivia Colman's characters. Sorry, she doesn't play multiple characters. I just misspoke. That's not a spoiler. I just misspoke.
It's an Eddie Murphy thing.
I think she's a lot of fun. She's having a great time. In just like looking around, investigating, seeing stuff occurring, and having a great time. I think that's a lot of fun. And this isn't a spoiler really, but there's a fun little cameo from Hayley Atwell as Mr. Brown's new boss at Risk Assessment. who encourages him to take more risks, which is why he ends up going to Peru. And that could have been played by anybody, to be honest. It didn't need to be a famous person, but that's what the Paddington franchise does. People just kind of want to be in it. And even if it's for like 2 scenes that were obviously filmed on the same day, and probably, I think she has like 2 lines, but she's like, yeah,
basically,
hello,
yes.
I'm here. Yeah, it's fine. It's not
and that's
bad.
the problem.
It's not great. And the other 2 films were exceptional. So,
that is the issue.
You're sitting there going, what am I watching here? This is just a watered down...
No.
It's like they didn't know what to do, so they just went. Some trilogies just go a bit silly for the 3rd film, and sometimes that really works and it rejuvenates it. Fast and Furious, that they just go balls to the walls, and then suddenly they've got this new franchise that lasts. Well, it's kind of fallen off a bit recently, but they've revitalized
10
it.
films.
But they're just like, yeah, they're just.
No, I completely agree. I don't mind the idea of going down sort of the exploring identity and heritage. Obviously, he is that fish out of water. He needs to know where he comes from. All he knows is that he's got Aunt Lucy and Uncle Pastuzo is missing, which I had to research for this. I completely forgot what the situation was there. I was like, why isn't he in this film? And then when I realised, I was like, oh, there could be, yeah, and whatever. But it had all the elements to do great. I just think they didn't know what they were doing with it. This Indiana Jones style, which they even reference it. They reference other films as well, which I'm going to talk to in part of the film I really hated. But yeah, great characters, potentially great storyline, even if it is difficult because Paddington gets its charm from quirky little bear in London, which doesn't work. But they just, every part of it just fell a little short, and it didn't have that emotional connection, whether it's due to changing the cast or just didn't. It's just an element that feels a bit off in my heart.
The entire film, I was just like, this just isn't quite working the entire way through. I was like, bits were making me laugh, and I was entertained by bits, but I was like, this just as a whole package, I was like, this has missed the mark slightly. Do you want to go into spoilers?
I think so, yes.
Okay, I am going to give it a thumbs up.
As am I.
Even though I am incredibly disappointed, though not entirely surprised that it didn't live up to the previous films, it's still nowhere near a thumbs down movie. There's a lot there to be entertaining. So yeah. Do you want to lead the way with spoilers?
So I kind of want to start the point with something I really hated.
Okay.
It's not really so much of a spoiler, but I want to go into it before we do proper spoilers. I don't like random musical numbers in films that don't need it.
What was that? What was that?
Yes.
I'd forgotten.
Thank you so much. They do this like Paddington's coming to Peru in the retirement home for old bears. The Reverend Mother starts singing. All the other nuns get in on it. There's a whole dance number outside. I hated every minute of it. And even the part I hated the most is when it cuts to the end and she's for some reason spinning around in the Swiss Alps like Sound of Music. Why? What is that? The whole 5-minute segment I just did not like.
Yeah, I didn't understand what was happening there at all.
No, not at all. Other spoilers. So this is only really a spoiler if you happen to have family that are Portuguese. But the captain's boat is called Curaçao de Ouro, which is Heart of Gold. Obviously makes sense for his character who's obsessed with gold.
He likes gold, mate.
When I was looking at it, I was like, Oro. Okay, I know it's gold. And I was like, but Oro kind of looks like Oro. Is it orange? Orange is the important thing. That makes sense in half of. They're trying to get to El Dorado, basically. And I was like, is orange is going to be the thing? I was like, no, they won't do that. They won't do that. And they got there and oranges is the point of El Dorado, and I'm just not okay with that.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah. I wanted to double check this and I completely forgot. I'm not actually sure if oranges are native to Peru.
Oh, okay. Let's wait while he Googles
sure.
it. Everyone shut up.
Yeah. So there are oranges in Peru.
No, you're an idiot. You were wrong the entire time. You're stupid.
I am an idiot. But yeah, it just I don't like this symbolism of like, oh well, what he loves is what's important. No, I do like the little joke though when they first talk about El Dorado and all he knows it as is the takeaway.
Yeah, which is a good joke. Apart from it's one of the few jokes that are in the trailer that, and I feel like it's like I've seen this already. Like, what?
Yeah. And plus, they've never referenced that before.
No,
it could have been a nice little callback, even if there was just a section where they were out there at the beginning. Like it would have been a minute.
Yeah.
You just have to assume that it's something he cares about.
Yeah. You're never going to believe it, everybody. Olivia Colman wasn't a bloody nun. After all, she was in disguise. That's a big spoiler for you. She's actually Antonio Banderas' long thought dead cousin. Loves gold as well. You're not going to believe it. Betrayals around that come from that. But that leads me into something that I really think that they kind of missed the mark on. Antonio Banderas sees the ghosts of his ancestors who are all driven mad by gold in various ways. He plays them all, which is a fun little trope. He's got the conquistador. I think there's a British type explorer, an American gold rush era miner, and an Amelia Earhart like equivalent where he's playing her.
But some priest.
Oh yeah, there's a priest as well. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that one. I just kind of wish he'd interacted with a wider range of them, because he essentially only talks to the conquistador for the most part, and they're there occasionally, like there's a group going. Rah, 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 rah. I think it would be more fun to have him interact with a wider cast of himself, essentially.
Agreed. I do like that when he does interact with the ghosts, they do reference it. So obviously he's talking to them, and then Paddington questions it, because there's a point where I think it's like, find the gold, kill the bear.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, kill him, not kill the bear, sorry. He says kill him. It's like, I can't remember what it exactly is, but it's fun that Paddington has to question it, but he's so British and polite. He just shoves it, pushes it to the side,
yeah.
Which I quite liked. Their interactions actually were some of the better ones in the film, I think, because obviously Antonio Banderas' character is really the antagonist for this. He's driven crazy. He's trying to find the gold like his family always has.
He's a bad dad. He's a bad dad. He's on the bad dad radar. No good, mate.
But he comes back to being a good dad.
Honestly,
this should be the bad dad. Honestly, we could do the bad dad podcast. Just films about bad dads or good dads.
So many bad dads in Hollywood. You wouldn't believe it.
Oh, yeah. I think Gina's character, so Antonio Banderas' daughter, is good for this. She's good for plot development and pushing it along. The redemption arc in it. And she plays it quite nicely, but there's not enough interaction with it.
Yeah.
Just little bits, if they'd done slightly differently, it could have elevated it a little higher.
Yeah, and I found quite a lot of the cast didn't really have that much to do, because the entire Brown family are there, but the two kids are they're there, but they're not really doing anything. Mr. Brown's doing some comedy stuff. He's scared of a big tarantula. Don't blame him. That thing's massive. Ends up on his face. He's a big hero. But yeah, they're just there, tropesing around, not really doing anything.
The son is only brought in for sort of like a Chekhov's gun moment. At the beginning, he's like, oh, I'm really into making contraptions and stuff at home, and then suddenly he needs to make one to save them when they're flying. Other than that, he's a teenager, so he uses Link's body spray, and Gina follows the smell of it, and he's like, oh, good way of using that as a scent trail. Like, yeah, that's what I was doing. Again, that joke doesn't really, it's just kind of, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really land.
And then Paddington at the very end, after they found El Dorado, and it turns out it's oranges, and Mrs. Brown's sitting there going, oh, look, he's found his home, he's going to stay. And he comes over, and in the slowest 5 minutes of my life, in the most telegraphed bit of cinema I've ever seen in my entire time, he eventually says, can I come back with you? You're my family. And yes, of course you can, Paddington. I'm like, is this what we were building to? Because this is nowhere near the equivalent of the emotional highs we had in either of the previous films.
It does lead to two of my favourite parts of this film, and they both happen in the last 5 minutes.
Okay. My favourite part happens in the credits.
Okay, go for it. You go first, I'll go for mine.
I don't like the fact that there's a million walking, talking bears, although most of them don't have a talking, you just assume they do. But and I don't really like the fact they all go to London on an adventure holiday. But I did very much pop big time for when Paddington was introducing them all by their various station names, because obviously he's named after Paddington Station. The best one was Cutty Sark for the Maritime Greenwich, which is so funny.
I disagree. My personal favourite was the two little ones, Elephant and Castle.
That's good as well. That is good as well. But Cutty Sark for the Maritime Greenwich is such a stupid station name anyway. So then be named a bear named after it. Yes.
Yeah, Tegan grew up. Oh, didn't grow up in London, but she went to uni in London, and when it got to that point, she just absolutely was. It hit hard for her. She was laughing crazily, and which was weird in the cinema. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. But the other part I liked about that, did you stay for the kind of post credits in credit scene with Phoenix Buchanan?
You know I didn't. Why would I ever stay for anything?
So you left instantly?
Yeah, I heard the Cutty Sark for Maritime credits as I was at the door, and I laughed walking out of the cinema.
Wow. Okay, so Hugh Grant is back in this film.
Nice. Love a bit of Hugh Grant.
So he comes back.
Was he playing his Heritage character?
Sadly, no.
Oh, okay.
But I do like the fact in the credits he is credited as Phoenix Buchanan But yeah, so Paddington takes all the bears to go see him in prison, and he's like, well, we could do a stage show of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You can be daddy, you can be mother, and your little one, come here, you could be baby. And it's just a weird little scene, but it's kind of funny, and he plays it in his very normal British way, and it's a nice callback to the second film. Honestly, if the film was more like that, it probably would have been better.
So what we're saying is both of our favourite moments were essentially after the film ended. Great.
Pretty much.
Great stuff. I'm happy to leave it there, honestly. I'm just a bit disappointed by the film in general. It doesn't land like the previous ones.
No, the issue, like you say, it's not number one, it's not number two. It's a fine film, but in a trilogy of great films, fine doesn't cut it.
No, absolutely. All right, cool. Well, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We are on Spotify if you want to listen to us on that as well. We're going to be back real soon for a scuffle in the sand of the Colosseum, presumably. And don't forget, there are the 1 minute reviews that we started doing as well, and the shorts, so check those out as well. Thanks so much. Talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.